What's up, friends? Welcome to another episode of Tables, Tailgates, and Top Loaders. So happy to have you all aboard for this episode. I am your host, as always, TB. Thank you so very much for stopping in and checking out the 3Ts podcast. So much to get to. So as we are getting ready to turn over the calendar to 2026, I thought maybe we would spend some time over the next few episodes or so doing sort of a year in review and handing out some completely made up awards that I just came up with. I know that a lot of podcasts do this. I know it's kind of cliche, but I don't care. It's still fun. I like doing it, which, as you know, fun, it's the most important category. So before we get started with the awards portion of the program, we do need to have a quick game recap of whatever the hell we watched yesterday afternoon from Cleveland, Ohio. So Bills Mafia, you are on the clock. How are we feeling after that extremely, what word do we want to use? Ugly performance the Bills put on yesterday against the Cleveland Browns, winning by the score of 23-20 and getting their record to 11-4. Now, I think I am going to go with ugly. I think that's the right word, and I hate to say it, but as I'm watching the game, it just seemed like the Bills team was completely content to play down to the level of the opponent. And in this case, the Cleveland Browns came in at 3-11. The week before, week 15, they got absolutely drubbed at the hands of the Chicago Bears 31-3. The Bills, congratulations, you made the Cleveland Browns look like a playoff team yesterday afternoon for a good portion of the game. And I'm just watching going, what is going on? Is this a thing? Is this a theme? Because it just seems that time and time again, the Bills choose to ignore certain opponents on their schedule and just play down to them. And I don't understand. This game should have been over 2 minutes after the half, but instead we're chewing our nails, sitting on the edge of the couch, wondering if we're going to actually lose this thing. So let's start with the offense, the good. I'll start with the good because this is going to be real quick. 3 straight drives to start the game. Each of those first 3 drives ended with a tutty. So that was great. We were running the ball with ease. James Cook looked amazing. He looks every bit the superstar that we paid him to be, and we had very little need to throw the ball. So he was just crushing it. Now, we look back at the beginning of the year. We've talked about this so many times, but aren't we glad that we paid him? And this game right here, this was the James Cook game. He took over this game, and he single-handedly almost was responsible for the Bills going up by 3 touchdowns. We won't talk about the missing extra point because we're on our, 4th kicker at this point? I don't know. Some clown we just pulled off the couch, off the sofa. It was just ridiculous, but he dunks one off the goalpost, and instead of 21 we got 20. But anyway, yeah, we had no need, very little need to throw the ball. After we scored 3 straight times, it all just kind of falls apart. That was basically the offense for the whole game. 28 minutes, and that was it. 28 minutes of good, the rest bad. And then with less than 2 minutes left to play in the first half, the Bills had a chance to completely put the game out of reach. We got the ball, less than 2 minutes to go, and we knew we were going to get it at the start of the second half. Do the whole double dip scenario. It would have been great. We had a chance to go drive down, get a score, come out after the half, put up some more points, and then maybe get Josh Allen, James Cook to the sidelines to just kick their feet up and have a hot chocolate or something. Trubisky could have come in. He could have just been backup extraordinaire and led the team down the field and just done their thing. That would have been ideal, but that's not the way it was going to go at all. So instead, with less than 2 minutes to go, we get a 2nd down and 1, and this is kind of the play that changes the entire makeup of the game moving forward. It's the play that turns the whole freaking thing upside down. Like, I felt like we were watching Stranger Things. Josh snaps the ball, he loses his mind, he runs around like a freaking lunatic again, and then similar to what Chris Berman used to do when he would call the home run derbies, it's like Josh just keeps going back towards the end zone, and 22 yards later takes a ridiculous sack that very well could have been called a safety. But one thing I noticed, quick side note, I felt like yesterday I watched a lot of football, and I felt like I'd never seen football before because some of the rules and the decisions that were being made amongst all the games on the slate, I'm like, have I ever watched football before? Because I have no idea why the refs are making certain calls. I don't know what what is going on anymore, what is actually happening. It was just crazy to me. But anyway, he drops back, runs all over the place, loses 22 yards. He hurts his foot. And now all of a sudden we are completely backed up against the goal line. We're forced to do a tush push of all things on a third and 22, third and 26. I don't know how many freaking yards we had. It was like a third and 22 on our own goal line. We had to do a tush push, aka snowplow, just to get out of our own end zone in order to give the punter a little breathing room at the end of the end zone. So I'm like, what the heck just happened? This happens now like every second or third game. He's good for one of these completely ridiculous, boneheaded, stupid, god-awful sacks where he just runs around and takes a terrible loss. And it's just so maddening. So, here's halftime, and historically through the season, we're a great second half team, so maybe we snap out of it, maybe we shake it off, maybe we regroup after halftime, right? Because, we're so good at making adjustments, and we're so much better in the second half, right? Nope. It was actually worse. It was, buckle up, folks. Hold on for dear life. Hope your defense can make an actual stop, because the offense will go into full hibernation mode for the rest of the game. Josh looks completely off from that point on. It looks like his foot's bothering him. He can't step into his throws. He's lofting them over people's heads. It's just like, oh, this is not good. And then the running game, of all things, turns to complete crap. So I don't know. Then we finally get open receivers. Yes, I see you, Dawson Knox and Brandon Cooks, and they drop the ball that's literally placed directly in their hands. The one on Dawson Knox was in the end zone, and people are saying, oh, the sun was in his eyes. Like, what are you talking about? The sun was in your eyes? Just catch the damn ball. You are wide open. No one is within 10 yards of you, and you drop the ball. Awesome. That was awesome. And the Brandon Cooks, why is he on the team? Why are we wasting our time with this guy? He's played now, 3 games, and he has 1 catch. He is terrible. So I don't know. These guys dropping wide open passes that have no business being dropped, just absolutely brutal. And the only other points we score in the entire second half of this game come off of the second tipped interception of Shedeur Sanders, and we have to settle for kicking a field goal with the new kicker, who I never want to see again. Yeah, great job to get us to 23 whole points against the Cleveland Browns on the road, and what I was told was 70% of the stadium was filled with Bills fans. So there shouldn't have been an issue with crowd noise. There shouldn't have been an issue with making audibles. It should have been nice and easy, a super simple road victory, and instead it was this debacle. Now, let's get to the defense. So who played well in the defense? Anyone? How about Jordan Poyer, who's 59,000 years old, off the practice squad earlier in this year? He was the MVP of the defense? Really? Oh my goodness. And thank God for Joey Bosa and Greg Rousseau, because the rest of the defensive line and the rotational players were non-existent. Matt Milano, thank you. You actually played okay. But the rest of the guys, straight trash. Straight garbage. Shaq Thompson gets injured early in the game, and Terrell Bernard now comes in, and he was dreadful. If this is the performance we're going to get out of Bernard, just put him on IR. There's clearly something wrong with him, whether it's his leg, his arm, his head. I don't know. He's not thinking clearly. He's not getting to the ball. He's getting pushed all over the field. It's like, I'm to the point now where we're better playing a man short, because he is just terrible. He should not be on the field at all. The tackling scenario, which we tried to clean up 2 weeks ago, it has reared its ugly head. Nobody can make a tackle on this team. Sean McDermott talks about how we need to be disciplined and all this stuff and play fundamental football. Has anyone bothered to teach the defensive players how to tackle? Because they're terrible at it. The defensive tackles, to get back to that, are just atrocious. Now, I know we're on our 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th string players on the practice squad and this, that, and the other, but it is so bad. It's just so bad, because what a terrible performance against a very, very bad Browns offense, who in the first half lost their best offensive player. He goes down with an injury that they didn't show on TV. They never replayed it, but clearly it's bad because they're putting his leg in an air cast, and they get the card out, and he was gashing you in the first half, but he gets hurt. So you're thinking, oh, this should help the Bills in the defense. Nope. They kept giving up chunk play after chunk play. I looked at the stats after this game. They allowed the Browns to convert 8 of 14 third downs. That is insane. 8 of 14 third downs. And just like I told you earlier, missing tackles, they couldn't get off the field. The Browns had 21 first downs in this game and held the ball for 35 minutes. The Cleveland Browns, 22 first downs against you. The Browns and Shedeur Sanders, who just lost their starting running back. I'm just like, this is ridiculous. And I'm watching the game and I'm like, I'm not sure what the actual game plan is at all. I just don't know. I don't have a clue. It seemed like they just didn't prepare for this game at all. They're already looking ahead to Week 17 and the Philadelphia Eagles. And I just think that this has become a reoccurring theme over and over and over again, playing down to the opponent. We saw it with the Atlanta game. We saw it with the Miami game. And now we see it with this game. It's just so frustrating. I talk about the word roller coaster. It's up, it's down. You don't know what you're going to get from one week to the next. You just don't know. But I said it for weeks. The margin for error is completely gone. No reinforcements were brought in at the deadline, and it's absolutely crushing this team. The roster, if you look at, you zoom the camera out, right? And you look at the totality of this roster, it is an absolute mess. The inactives come out before yesterday's game, right around 11:30, 12 o'clock. Keon Coleman, Gabe Davis, both inactive. And who do they start in their place? Mecole Hardman, fresh off the IR, and what does he do in the game? You're like, oh, maybe he's going to catch a couple passes. Nope, 0 catches, but he returned 1 punt. 1 punt? So we're sitting Gabe Davis and Keon Coleman for a guy that is going to return 1 punt for us? That's it? What the heck are we doing? Is Gabe hurt? This is back-to-back games where Gabe is not suiting up for your offense. And he wasn't bad in the games he played. He made a few catches. He's a great blocker. He's on the field the majority of the snaps. So what are we doing? And then the Keon story? The Keon story is crazy to me. Is there anyone out there that thinks Keon Coleman is going to be on this team next year? I just don't know what we're doing. But you're telling me that Mecole Hardman, fresh off the IR, is better returning 1 punt than Keon Coleman is? I don't know. Can that actually be true? And the Brandon Cooks signing, disaster. He can't catch the ball. The Josh Palmer signing, 3 years, $11 million a year. He can't catch the ball either. He can't get open. He's had 1 catch for 2 yards yesterday. And in the whole season, he has 20 catches. He's averaging 2 catches a game. What are we paying this guy $11 million for? It's just insane to me how bad this receiver room is. It's just absolutely insane. And I've said this for months. If Dalton Kincaid is not right, the offense doesn't work. Thank God for James Cook, because when Dalton Kincaid is not healthy, when he's not effective on the field, when he can't play, and yesterday he barely played. I think he had 15 snaps, something like that, 15 or 19 snaps of all the offensive snaps, which is incredibly low. Clearly, he's still nursing the knee or the hammy or whatever the hell injury he's dealing with. But when he is not the focal point of the offense outside of James Cook, the passing game doesn't work. When he's not on the field, the passing game doesn't work. So I don't know. Maybe this offseason we need a complete refresh of this offensive mindset. We need a new play caller. We need a new wide receiver room. The whole room outside of Shakir, get rid of them all, because this is a disaster. It's just insane to me. And this everybody eats motto has been literally replaced with nobody eats. Nobody eats whatsoever. And I'm just not sure what I'm going to see when I sit down and turn the television on week to week. I'm not sure what's going to happen. I'm not sure what the play mentality, the play calling is going to be. I'm not sure what team's going to actually show up on the field from week to week. This roller coaster is real, folks. We have 2 weeks to go, and I feel like it's as shaky as ever. And this is even in winning the game. Can you imagine if we had lost this game to the Browns? Holy cow. And last night, I don't know if y'all saw the Ravens-Patriots game. We needed the Ravens to help us out a bit, and they were a disaster. Lamar gets hurt again. The AFC is totally up in the air, and I have absolutely no idea where this is going. The teams that you thought 2 months ago were jokes are leading the AFC. Jacksonville, Denver. Jacksonville went into Denver and beat the brakes off of them. So holy cow. Who would have thought the Jacksonville Jaguars are going to be the team to beat coming out of the AFC? I mean, we'll see what happens with the Colts tonight, but I don't think they're going to be around much longer. And then the Steelers go into Detroit and pull that game out. I don't know if y'all saw that nonsense, but again, it's another game where I'm like, I don't know the rules to football anymore because I've never heard of half this stuff. Oh, it's insane. So buckle up, Mafia. Buckle up, because it's going to be a crazy, crazy final stretch. Anyway, I just wanted to get out a few thoughts on the game before turning our attention to the squared circle. Because wrestling, Marks, you are on the clock. How are we feeling? Have we recovered from the John Cena retirement tour? Have we recovered from his last match at Saturday night's main event against Gunther? Did you all happen to see the opening to Monday Night Raw? I just want to talk about this real quick because the rest of the show, it doesn't matter. But Gunther came out and the place from Hershey, PA. I wish I was there. I knew too late that they were going to be in Hershey. Man, I would have loved to be there. But they booed him out of the building. And every time he went to put the mic up to his mouth, the place got louder and louder. He finally manages to talk after he's just egging the crowd on. From the minute he comes through the apron, it's glorious. He finally starts to talk. And the only thing he says is, I made John Cena tap like a little bee. That's it. And he drops the mic and he starts walking out and the place comes unglued. He starts walking towards the back. He stops about 3/4 of the way up the ramp. He turns around, comes back, and he gets on the announce table with the mic in his hand again. And he basically goes, like a little bee. You know, obviously he says the word, which I'm not going to say, but it was glorious. And I'm like, there you go. This guy who just beat Cena 2 nights ago and said 2 lines on Monday Night Raw, and the place comes unglued. They hate him so much. This is exactly why. If you haven't seen it, it was awesome. He got that place to hate him so much. Yeah, we talked about it at the podcast last week. If you haven't listened, go check it out. But I think he's the perfect one. He's a perfect heel that can take all that hate and turn it into something great. And I think it's going to be great. But like I said, the rest of the show, it's whatever. I'm not really going to spend any more time breaking down Raw or SmackDown. I kind of want to get to this year in review. I kind of want to hand out some awards. Now, I couldn't come up with a real fancy name for these, so I figured, hey, it's my podcast, so I'm going to call these the TBs. These are the TB Awards. I got a bunch of categories. We're going to go through them one at a time, so let's have some fun. Let's go get it. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk about the runners-up, and then I'm going to announce the winner. So the first category that we have is Heel of the Year. Heel of the Year. So if you don't know what a heel is, they're usually the bad guy. You got baby faces and heels. Heel of the Year. So the first runner-up. The first runner-up in this category, Naomi. And this goes all the way back to the beginning of the year. Now, if you remember, now Naomi, while her year was shortened a bit by her pregnancy announcement, I think she made a huge, huge splash early in the year. The storyline coming out just before the calendar turned into 2025, the storyline was Bianca and Jade. If you remember, Jade got injured by the hands of an unknown assailant. Someone had pushed her off this like cargo bay area onto the hood of a car, and she suffered all these crazy injuries, and she was out for a while. So there's a huge storyline trying to figure out who was the culprit to injuring Jade. And this lasted all the way up until Elimination Chamber. And the first match of the night was the Women's Elimination Chamber match. And we saw Jade Cargill return, and before the match even starts, she beats the absolute brakes out of Naomi, and this was definitely the catalyst for Naomi's definitive heel run, and this was the debut of her Proceed with Caution moniker, which I absolutely loved. If you haven't seen the beginning of Elimination Chamber, that whole pay-per-view is fantastic, by the way, but it was great. You think she's going to attack Liv. She kind of changes at the last moment and goes after Naomi and just beats the crap out of her. And then Naomi takes the ball and just runs with it. She creates this whole Proceed with Caution character. She wraps the briefcase, which she wins later at the Money in the Bank. She wraps it in caution tape. It's awesome. I loved all the video packages, the whole presentation. It was great work. She would go on to win the women's Money in the Bank match, and then she would successfully cash in the briefcase during the Io Sky Rhea Ripley title match at the Women's Evolution. And then a few weeks after that pay-per-view, she defended that title against the same 2 women, so Io and Rhea, in a triple threat match at SummerSlam. That match was fantastic. And then, of course, 2 short weeks later, she announces that she's pregnant and she has to vacate the title. It was a short title run as a heel champion, but it was great. Nevertheless, I loved everything about it, and it was fantastic. So that's the first runner-up. Second runner-up, Dirty Dom Mysterio. Has anyone else had such an organic, slow, and steady rise to the top of the WWE food chain as Dirty Dom? I have loved watching his evolution. I've loved watching him slowly change over the years, and I think it's great. I think if you go all the way back to the Intercontinental Fatal 4-Way title match at WrestleMania, this is kind of the start of his pretty good run with the belt. He wins the belt there. And then through the rest of the calendar year, he's had a lot of good, successful title defenses. Look, he's classic old school, right? So he's going to cheat. He's going to lie and cheat and steal just like his, real father, Eddie Guerrero. And as he's doing it, it's becoming more and more like sneaky, and it's just great. Some of the underhandedness that he is incorporating during his matches and the sly cheating ways, it's just fantastic. So, and you add on top of that his mic work, it's gotten so much better. His matches have gotten better. Add to that the fact that he went to win the AAA championship, and so now he had 2 belts. He was carrying the AAA championship and the IC belt prior to his match with John Cena on Monday Night Raw in November. This was a spontaneous impromptu match between Cena and Dirty Dom. Cena actually wins, and he loses the belt to Cena. But fast forward to Survivor Series, they have a rematch, and thanks to the help of a returning Liv Morgan, he gets the belt back. But I think if you look at the totality of his year, he had a great year, and he's becoming one of the top heels in the company. And now for the winner of the very first award, the very first TB award for Heel of the Year. The winner is Becky Lynch. Yep, that's right. So she made her long-awaited return. She was gone for just about 11 months. She came back at night 2 of WrestleMania to team up with Lyra Valkyria, and together they won the women's tag titles. The very next night on Monday Night Raw, they go on and lose the belts in a title match. And immediately after losing the belt, she turns on Lyra, beats the brakes off of her, and thus starts the heel run that continues to go strong to today as we speak. And throughout the rest of the calendar year, throughout 2025, she had a great feud with Lyra. She had a great feud with Bayley. Not too great work with Nikki Bella. The returning Nikki Bella work was not good on Nikki's part, but the promo that Becky cut against her was fantastic. And then she goes on, she feuds with a returning AJ Lee, and then currently she's feuding with Maxine Dupree of all people. All these feuds have been absolutely phenomenal. Her mic skills have been taken to completely new highs this year. She's adding this new social media element to her character where she's going on her socials, her Twitter and whatnot, and just blasting her opponents, and she's talking about suing people and going after Adam Pearce and all this. It's like she has become this character, and it's now 24/7. So for me, this whole run has been impressive. It's been hilarious, and she's added so many different elements to it. And for me, this is a no-brainer. She's been outstanding, and she's more than deserving of the very first ever TB award. So congrats, Becky Lynch. You are the heel of the year for 2025. So we go on. Next category, we have the feud of the year. Now, here are the 2 runners-up to the feud of the year for 2025. You might not think this is crazy, or you might think this is crazy, but I actually have Rusev versus Sheamus. Now, if you all have been watching the history between these two for 2025, these two spent months and months just beating the absolute crap out of each other time and time again over the course of months on Raw, SmackDown, or whatever show they flip-flop between. I don't know. And this all culminated at the Clash in Paris pay-per-view with a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match in which we saw Sheamus actually tap out for the first time in about 16 years. He tapped out to Rusev and the Accolade, which was crazy. This match was just crazy. They did a lot of crazy stuff in this. I know I keep saying crazy, but this match was awesome. It was so good. It doesn't get more hard-hitting than these two. Time after time, they were just putting on banger after banger. Shout out to Sheamus, but it was so fun. It was so entertaining. It was throwback and good stuff. Good stuff between Rusev and Sheamus. So well done. You are well deserving of a runner-up. Next on the list, we have the Kabuki Warriors versus Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. This was a feud that I didn't know I needed heading into 2025, but once we got the title off of Io, this kind of came together perfectly, organically, and the 4 of these wrestlers have been like cruising along ever since. I think all 4 of them are doing stellar work, both in and out of the ring. I love the backstage segments with Asuka and Kairi Sane. I love the combo of Rhea and Io and how they're suddenly best friends, because you know how this is going to eventually play out at some point. It'd be interesting to see who actually turns heel sometime down the line. But until that happens, I am thoroughly enjoying this. I think each one of the four brings a little extra something different to the table, and the matches have been good to great. So they never put on a bad match. Over and over again, it's been well done. I love it so far. Can't wait to see where this heads, because I think it's going to continue at least a little into 2026. So we will see. But the winner to the feud of the year for 2025 is none other than Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. I mean, what more could you ask for? So Seth wins Money in the Bank at the pay-per-view. He wins the briefcase. He gets injured, maybe not. I don't know. This whole thing, it had me convinced, right? It had me convinced that he was truly going to be on the shelf for a while. And then we fast forward to SummerSlam, and it's Punk versus Gunther for the title. They put on an absolute classic match. They have a 30-minute great match. And then after the match is over, you hear Seth Rollins' music. You see him and Paul Heyman on the top of the ramp. He hobbles out with his crutches, and he's got a leg brace on. All of a sudden, he drops the crutches, he rips off the leg brace, and he runs down with the briefcase, and he cashes in on Punk to become the champion. I mean, this was a continuation of the feud. It was fantastic. And then it continues on, and they bring in their real life actual wives of a returning AJ Lee and Becky Lynch. And yeah, I was totally in on this feud. It's great. Congrats to your very first TB award. Now, I'm also going to put categories in here that might not be so nice. So we also have to look at the bad side of things. I have 2 awards on the docket, and the first is for the worst pay-per-view of the year. The worst pay-per-view of the year. Now, maybe we can't call these the TBs because these are actually negative awards, and I don't want to hand out TBs to people for doing really bad crap, so we kind of need another name. So there's a fake TB out there roaming around, and so we're going to call these the boo-boos after the famous fake TB. So here you go. The first boo-boo award is for the worst pay-per-view of the year, and the runner-ups are the debut on ESPN, the brand new app of WrestlePalooza, because the reason this made the list is the amount of hype that went into this show. This show severely underdelivered. You had a returning Brock Lesnar absolutely beat the crap out of John Cena in the opening match. So you started the show terribly, and you ended the show with a terrible main event of Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. Everyone knew Drew had no chance of winning. And the stuff in the middle, it was just whatever. The 4-way match between the power couples, AJ and CM Punk versus Rollins and Lynch. It was fun, but it wasn't like, holy cow, this is amazing. I did find that match fun, but it wasn't enough to pull up the rest of the show. That was just kind of a drag. So there you go. That's the first runner-up. The second runner-up, Backlash. Backlash happened right after WrestleMania. Can anyone remember a single match from this card? Yeah, me neither. So if I told you the main event was John Cena, who was a bad guy at the time, versus Randy Orton, it might spark a memory or two, but this whole show was not very memorable. That match, the Cena-Orton headliner, it was an overbooked schmoz fest, and outside of the one saving grace, which was Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch, the rest of the card was completely underwhelming. No need to rewatch this one at all. So who is the winner for the very first Boo Boo Award for worst pay-per-view of 2025? Well, it goes to none other than WrestleMania 41. And you might be saying, how could you ever give WrestleMania the worst pay-per-view of the year? Well, hear me out. Because for this show to be the focal point of your entire calendar year, they've called this the Showcase of the Immortals, the Super Bowl for wrestling. This is the show that is supposed to draw eyes to the business, to people who aren't regular wrestling fans. This show was not good at all. 2 nights, you have 4 to 4.5 hours of wrestling each night. So you're talking about 9 hours of wrestling. And if I can only find 2 standout matches over the course of 2 nights. Now, I will talk about these matches later. These matches were amazing, but if these 2 matches are literally the highlights of 9 hours of wrestling, we have a problem. And those 2 matches, the main event of night 1, which was a triple threat between Rollins, Punk, and Reigns with the Heyman story on the side, that match was fantastic. And then they immediately followed up with the opener to night 2, which was Io versus Bianca versus Ripley for the women's title. I mean, outside of those 2, awesome classic matches. No, thank you. The whole show was a mess. And then to close it with the absolute dreadful match of John Cena, who's a bad guy, versus Cody Rhodes, it made the night so much worse. My concerns are that this is the type of show we're going to get year after year for WrestleManias, and it has me a little worried, especially as we head back to Las Vegas and then to God help us, Saudi Arabia. So, like I said, 1 to 2 fantastic matches over 2 nights, and then just filler and garbage throughout the rest of the show. Not good. So congrats on your worst pay-per-view of the year and your boo-boo award, WrestleMania 41. So back to the good, the best pay-per-view of the year. Back to the TB Awards. We're going to hand this one out. The runners-up, Crown Jewel from Perth, Australia. Now, I think this pay-per-view is severely underrated. I think a lot of people will forget about this show, but it was pretty freaking good. Every match on this card, I enjoyed at least a little bit. You had Bronson versus Roman. You had Tiffany versus Stephanie Vakir. You had the Kabuki Warriors versus Io Sky and Rhea Ripley. You had an absolute classic match of Cody versus Seth Rollins. And then, of course, one of my all-time favorite matches of the entire year, you had John Cena versus AJ Styles, which, you want to talk fun factor, that match was off the charts as far as fun factor. I love that match. It's probably one of my favorite matches of all time. Not that it was a great wrestling match. I think it was a good wrestling match, but it was just a fun wrestling match. But top to bottom, that show is good to great, and I think it's very criminally underrated. So runner-up, Crown Jewel, Perth, Australia. There you go. Second on the runner-up list for pay-per-view of the year, Elimination Chamber. I mean, what can I say? Elimination Chamber 2025. This was great for so many reasons. Started off hot with the returning Jade Cargill taking out Naomi. We talked about this earlier. She took her out before the match even started. And I mean, we're off and running. The rest of the women's chamber match was fire. It was a great start. The unsanctioned match, not many people remember this match between KO, who's been out for so long with the neck issue, and Sami Zayn. So this match between KO and Sami Zayn was absolute bonkers. They over-delivered so much on that one. And then the men's chamber match, which saw John Cena emerging victorious against Seth Rollins, CM Punk, Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest, Logan Paul. That match was great. That match was so much fun. Good time. And of course, the shock of the night, and quite possibly the shock of the last 20 years in the world of professional wrestling, the final segment involving The Rock and Cody Rhodes and the whole stupid battle for his soul and all this nonsense. But we finally get, what are we waiting for? A John Cena heel turn. It was great. It was iconic. It was fantastic. I loved it. So there you go. Elimination Chamber. You get a runners-up award. But the winner for pay-per-view of the year, none other than Evolution 2025. From start to finish, I had so much freaking fun watching Women's Evolution. This was my favorite show, and it wasn't particularly close. Starting with the Women's Intercontinental Championship, Becky Lynch versus Bayley versus Lyra Valkyria. That triple threat match was fantastic. I love that match. That match saw Becky emerging victorious. It went about 17 minutes, and it kind of set the stage all the way through the rest of the show up until the main event of Io Sky versus Rhea Ripley. And that match, the Io Sky Rhea Ripley match, was a classic that I would play over and over again. If I want people who have never seen wrestling to understand a good, solid match with some of the best wrestlers, not that they're female, but this is one of the best wrestling matches I've seen, I'm going to show them this match. It was fire. It was 27 minutes of greatness, and then it even got better because we had a Naomi run-in, cash-in, and her becoming champion was outstanding. I was super happy to see it with the new Proceed with Caution gimmick. I loved every minute of that match, every minute of the show. The women absolutely crushed it. Congrats to you all on winning the TB award. Now, we're going to go switch back to the dark side for a minute because the worst match of the year, Cena versus Lesnar. You are up first as a runner-up. Cena versus Lesnar at WrestlePalooza. Yikes. All the hype, all the promos. It was just a press repeat of their SummerSlam squash match that Lesnar dropped on Cena so many years ago. Now, I'm fine with a good old squash match, but it didn't seem like there was a point to this whatsoever. All it did was make the 30 mini John Cenas who came out with him at the intros stand there and cry in the audience. Like, it was just the funniest thing about that was watching the audience's reaction after the match was over 6 minutes later, because he just beats the absolute crap out of him. It's F5 after F5, Suplex City. He gets in no moves. He just beats the tar out of him. And then they pan to the crowd and all the kids are crying. And I'm like, wow, ESPN, you are off to a flying start on your brand new debut pay-per-view on the app. So congratulations. The second runner-up for the worst match of the year category and the winner of the Boo Boos runner-up is Saturday night's main event, CM Punk versus Jey Uso for Seth Rollins' vacated title. What the hell was this match? This match was terrible. Jey looked like he was on another planet. This was a total debacle. At one point, you can see Punk kind of kick him in the head out of disgust because Jey Uso keeps botching move after move. It was a complete disaster. It couldn't get over fast enough. This match proved to the world that Jey has no business carrying the world title, of being in the title picture. It was bad in every way, shape, or form. You could tell. It's very rare that you see wrestlers get frustrated in a match with their opponent, and you could tell that CM Punk just could not wait for that match to be over. But the winner of the Boo Boo Award and the worst match of 2025 goes to John Cena versus Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania Night 2 main event. What an absolute slog fest this match was. I understand why they did it, but holy hell did I freaking absolutely hate it. This is probably the most bored I have ever been with a WrestleMania main event in a very, 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 very long time. It was so disappointing, just the match itself. And then by the time they hit that music and Travis Scott comes down to the ring with his stupid Fiend music over and over and over again, blasting on and on until eternity. And him just like walking like a sloth to the ring, and you're just waiting for him to do something and get in the ring. And it just makes the entire thing 100 times worse. It was already a dumpster fire. And now Travis Scott entering the picture, it makes it just terrible. I hated every single thing about that match, about the finale to that match, about the inclusion of Travis Scott. I hate everything about that match. So congratulations, you won the Boo Boo. Worst match 2025. There you go. So let's get back to the good match of the year. Let's start with the runners up. We have CM Punk versus Roman Reigns versus Seth Rollins, WrestleMania 41. Now, this match had a little bit of everything. You had a great stage. It was your night one main event. You had great entrances, great promo packages. You had great intrigue with the Paul Heyman scenario and the story of him, being with CM Punk and then being with Roman Reigns, and then the whole Rollins thing. And then you had an absolutely brilliant and well executed great heel turn involving Heyman aligning officially with Seth Rollins, executed perfectly. It was the only saving grace of a disaster of night one for WrestleMania. So there you go. Second to the runner-up of match of the year, the Street Profits versus Motor City Machine Guns versus DIY. This was the night before WrestleMania. So this was Friday night SmackDown on April 25th. This was a feud that had been brewing for quite some time, and it was a TLC match that got booted from the WrestleMania card because of time, because of other storylines. And this match was absolutely fantastic, right? And it's bad because it would have been great for the six of them to have a showcase and to actually have this match in front of such a huge audience. But it was good because most likely had it been on WrestleMania, it wouldn't have been given the 30 minutes that they were given on SmackDown. So bad that it got cut, but good that they gave it time to breathe and kind of put it as a standalone on SmackDown, because holy heck, this match was awesome. If you haven't seen this match the night before WrestleMania kicks off, It was a beautiful, fast-paced car wreck of the best kind, and it was so much fun to see. Tip of the cap to all the gentlemen involved in this. Awesome job. But the winner of the TB for best match of the year, we have Rhea Ripley versus Io Sky versus Bianca Belair at WrestleMania 41. And you may be thinking, hey, TB, why are there two WrestleMania matches that are up for match of the year when it just won a boo-boo for the worst pay-per-view of the year? Well, like I said, these two matches, so your triple threat and then your winner here, this other triple threat, these were the only two highlights of that show. And this one brought down the freaking house. It should have been the main event for night 2. I understand Cody always gets preferential treatment, and then you throw John Cena as champ into the mix, but this should have been the night 2 main event because these three ladies absolutely crushed it. They set the tone for the rest of the year that frankly, no one else has been able to surpass. A few have come close, but this match just didn't raise the bar. They became the bar. So tip of the cap to you three ladies. You won the TB award for match of the year for your triple threat at WrestleMania 41. Next category, we have the jump off my couch moment of the year. Here are your runners up. We have Brock Lesnar returns at SummerSlam to take out John Cena. Now this is crazy. John Cena and Cody Rhodes just got done putting on a banger of a title match, which just barely missed making the list for match of the year, by the way. This match was great. It was the return to being a good guy for John Cena. If you remember his entrance, he had changed it during his heel run to all black. So it was just a black background with white letters, simply saying John Cena. Well, for the SummerSlam match, it started that way, and then the colors kicked in, and the place erupts. So it was awesome. So they then go on and put on a banger of a match. But the shock of the night comes immediately after the conclusion of the match. Cody had already left after beating Cena, taking back his title. He had already left, and then Cena's sitting in the ring kind of by himself, and then Brock Lesnar's music erupts, and he comes down to the ring looking like a tank that's returned from the dead, and he was jacked to the hills. It was insane. The shock alone of seeing him back in a WWE show and ring was ridiculous, considering all the outside stuff and allegations that have been going on. But he then proceeds to F5 John Cena all over the ring, and he leaves, and it was just absolutely crazy. So there you go. That's runner-up number 1. Runner-up number 2, the Seth Rollins cash-in. We kind of already talked about this, but he cashed in on newly crowned champ CM Punk, who had just fought Gunther for 30 minutes. Then his music hits. He hobbles out on the stage with his crutches. He throws off the crutches. He rips off the leg brace. He grabs the briefcase. He makes a beeline for the ring. He cashes in, hits CM Punk with a curb stomp, and suddenly we have a new champion. Punk had literally held the belt for 2 minutes. This was fantastic. I love it. I love the Seth Rollins cash-ins. The WrestleMania one was great, and this was probably better in my opinion. But the winner of the jump off my couch moment of the year goes to... They finally did it. After 20 years, they finally did it. That's what I was screaming as I jumped off my couch watching the end of Elimination Chamber and seeing John Cena embracing Cody Rhodes at the same time that The Rock gives the throat slash motion, and you see this smile turn to a frown. You see the shot to the nether regions, and then John Cena proceeds to beat the heck out of Cody Rhodes and take him out. And it was just wild. It was wild. I literally physically jumped off my couch. I could not believe what I was watching. It was so insane that after such a long time and never pulling the trigger, they finally did it and turned John Cena to a heel, to a bad guy. Now, the run itself wasn't great. It like we could talk about that later. You all know that it just wasn't great. But given the context, given everything that was going on, to finally see the heel turn, it was truly a surprise and a worthy recipient of the jump off my couch moment of the year and the TB award. And finally, the wrestler of the year. Now, this is very subjective. I get it. This was extremely tough to call. All three nominees for this TB, the final TB of the night, they are very deserving. So, I mean, this is very subjective. Y'all might have a completely different thought process to this, but the first runner-up is going to be none other than the recently retired John Cena. Now, if you look
back, this really has been the year of John Cena. Everything from Royal Rumble to his heel turn to the few months that he spent as a bad guy, his arc to venture back to the good side, and then the banger after banger and the stellar list of matches that he put together. It was just fantastic. So everything was about him. Everything was about this retirement tour. I am kind of totally fine with it. I understand there was probably a lot of stories, probably a lot of stuff that got put to the side, put to the back burner because of this overarching year-long story. But listen, he's John Cena. He's been around forever. He's one of the greatest to ever do it. So he deserved the fanfare. He deserved the send-off. He deserved the whole retirement tour. There were a few rough patches after the heel turn, but I think his promos were still great. And I think once he got back to being a babyface at SummerSlam, he was literally off and running, and it was great match after great match. It was a very highly enjoyable ride off into the sunset. It was a great year in the making. Well done, Cena. I hope you enjoy your retirement. Second runner-up, and this was like razor thin close. And maybe in a month I might change my mind, but for now, the second runner-up to the Wrestler of the Year goes to Becky Lynch. For reasons as I've previously stated, she has been out freaking standing since her comeback at WrestleMania. Every feud she has been in, she has elevated her opponent. And I've talked about this before. She's elevated Lyra. She's elevated Maxine. She's elevated returning Nikki Bella and AJ Lee, and the whole social media stuff. She got a new theme song. Every promo she cuts is absolute fire. She's gold on the mic. Plus, she got to work with her hubs, Seth Rollins, and that was just icing on the cake, which I kind of wish that duo lasted a little longer, but with his injury, I understand that it didn't last as long as it did. But then when Heyman and the boys turn on Seth Rollins and you see the backstage promo between her and Paul Heyman, I mean, I am so invested in the work she is doing this year. She's one of my favorites. I say it time and time again, but she has been outstanding. She has elevated her game to a whole new level. She's had a great year. But the winner of the 2025 TB Award for Wrestler of the Year goes to none other than Io Sky. Now, I cannot think of a single match, and I've probably watched every one of them this year that Io Sky has been in. I have not seen a bad Io Sky match. You want to talk promos, and this is where I kind of got into, well, we're kind of cutting hairs here between her and Becky. They're not close. Like, it's sometimes the language barrier can be a detriment to a wrestler, but if I'm talking straight Wrestler of the Year, there is no one, in my opinion, that has had a better wrestling year than Io Sky. She has put on such clinics in the ring. She can wrestle with anyone. She can wrestle with some of the powerhouses. She can wrestle with the quicker aerial artists like the Kairi Sanes. She can wrestle with some of the bigger ladies like Raquel Rodriguez and Nia Jax. Like, she can wrestle with anyone and make them look like gold. The stuff she's doing is just fantastic. She is such an asset to this company, to the whole women's division, and pound for pound, like match for match, I don't think that there's very many people, if anyone, in all of wrestling, that includes NXT, AEW, what have you. I don't think there's anyone that has put to a better portfolio of match work together for 2025 than Io Sky. So there you have it. She's my winner of Wrestler of the Year and the elusive TB Award. But those are going to be the categories. So I would love to know what your thoughts are. Did I get them right? Did I get them wrong? What did I miss the mark on? What all do you think? What other awards or categories should I be looking to hand out TBs? Or maybe a few more boo-boos, because there's a lot of bad stuff that happens in wrestling, and I could have gone on for another 30, 40 minutes, but I figure I'll try to keep this under an hour. But I think that will wrap up this episode of the 3Ts. Now, before I sign off, I just want to wish everyone a very Merry Christmas. I'm going to try to do another podcast right before New Year's. I might try to break down some of the Bills season, but we'll see, because my son's in from the Navy, and I want to spend time with him. So maybe I'll get one out. Maybe we'll see. We'll see how I feel after the Eagles game. We'll see what disaster befalls the Bills next weekend. But I just wish an extremely happy holiday. I'm very thankful for you all out there for listening and for checking out the podcast. So I hope you all have a good time with your friends and family, and I wish you the best heading into 2026. But if you've enjoyed this episode or any of the episodes of the 3Ts podcast so far, do me a favor, share it with someone you know, whether they are a fellow Mafia member, a card collector, or someone who just loves professional wrestling. It doesn't matter. I'm trying to grow this thing one episode at a time. So please, please, please help your boy out. Hit that follow, hit that like, leave me a quick review. Help me build this thing together. And as always, I appreciate you all very, very much.
So until next time, whether it's ripping packs, breaking tables, or dropping elbows, keep doing what you love. And as always, go Bills.